I didn't because I had my son and my daughter. No, sorry, my son and my wife with me. So they had me doing the things they wanted to do as well. So no, it was cool. It was great fun. I spent the whole summer just about in France doing the Women's World Cup. So I suppose I had to swan about a bit and pretend I could speak French, which I can't. But just put an accent on.
You had some serious making up to do, is what you had to do after that trip
exactly.
over to the World Cup to France as well. Yeah. Pat, we'll start with tonight's games. Red Star Belgrade don't travel well. We found that out in the Champions League last year, but they are capable of pulling off a result, which we also found out to Liverpool's expense. It's a tricky one for Spurs tonight, isn't it?
It's a tricky one, but they've got to go for it. Looking at the team they've played, you know what it's like, and I see Dame's there with you as well. They don't know whether they're going to play 3 at the back or 4 at the back most of the time. When I'm looking at that team tonight and it looks at 4 at the back. They've got to go for it tonight. I think they've got some of the big names back. Eriksen's on the bench tonight, isn't he?
Yeah.
They would love to have the main men there. You'd like to have Kane and Son and Eriksen really all hitting it together. But Eriksen's on the bench and he might be able to play part of the game. But I think you're dead right about Red Star. They are just 2 totally different teams. I was at that game over in Belgrade when Liverpool were there, and honestly, it's just I think it might be the best atmosphere I've ever been in a game in my life. It was absolutely unbelievable, and you took all the great games like playing, obviously the big derbies we've got here and the Celtic Rangers ones, and even Galatasaray and that. I actually think the Red Star Belgrade night is right up there, if not better than them all.
That stadium, the Maracanã, what they call it over there in Belgrade, it's one of those ones that's pretty much all one tier all the way around and is conducive to a massive atmosphere.
They're not exaggerating. They told us when we were going over, you were going to be surprised. And myself and the commentator I was with, we were sort of smiling, thinking, no, we've seen a few things. We've been a few places. And then the noise before it went, yeah, got you. We're surprised. It was amazing. But you're right. It shouldn't be a big problem tonight. It should be good enough for Spurs. But you know the difficulty they've been having recently. And I mean, that little period there with the game against Brighton was it, and the game against, obviously, Bayern Munich, who aren't bad, but to lose that amount of goals in that short a period of time, and they've not been flying in the league at all. It just doesn't seem, from the outside, like the happiest looking camp you've ever seen in your life. And that doesn't help when, the pressure's on, you need everybody working together.
Do you get that sense that things are kind of crumbling away from Pochettino at the club?
They can do. I mean, what are they? They're seventh in the league at the moment, but it's 12 points, I think, from 9 games, which is a bit hopeless in comparison to what they've been before. If you thought it was a kind of, a little bit of a wobble, you can almost see that, but it just seems more than that. And you stick the Eriksen uncertainty on top of it. Hey, by the way, hold up now, I'm a massive, massive fan of Eriksen, and I do think he's as important as any other player in that team. But crumbling away is maybe harsh. Will they be top 4 this season? I think it's looking like outsiders for it now, because once you go beyond the first 12 or 13 players, it's looking pretty thin there.
Yeah, that's the worry for them, and especially like the one area that always comes back to me when you think of that Spurs team that was challenging for the league a couple of seasons ago and seemed to have so much dynamism about them was their fullback area, and they were constantly rotating their fullbacks. You'd have Danny Rose and Ben Davies on the left-hand side, you'd have Kieran Trippier and Kyle Walker as was on the right-hand side. They were able to chop and change. They brought a whole lot to that side, whereas now their fullback area seems like one of their major weaknesses, and Serge Aurier down that right-hand side almost at times seems like a liability for them. It's failure to address those kind of matters as they've arisen seems to have cost them over the past 6 months to a year.
That partially, and again, I'd be interested to hear what Damien had to say about it as well, but I'm not convinced for the centre-backs either. I know historically they've been great and they are very, very good players, but there is weakness there. There is definitely weakness there, and maybe not always the quickest in that sort of area as well. Pat, and when he has got to 3 at the back, it sometimes looks as if he's doing that because he doesn't trust the 2. Sometimes you go to 3 at back because you want to try something different or because it suits the group you've got. A couple of times I've watched Pochettino change it to 3 at the back, you've thought, nah, you just don't trust the 2 of them, you need 3 back there. And that's a real worry for him.
Pat, do you also think that, how are you, by the way? Do you also think that he's changed the makeup of his midfield as well? I mean, it was always, the 2 centre-backs were always really well insulated. He had Wanyama, Dyer, you know, he always had real big, strong, physical players in the middle of the park. He's this season gone with Ndombele and Harry Winks, essentially, who are footballers as opposed to like strong, dominant type midfield players. And I think that's exposed the centre-backs a little bit. Obviously, their contractual situation is adding into it as well. But I wonder why was it he didn't get the players that he wanted, the investment that he wanted off Daniel Levy, or is he just going in another direction and it's not working out?
I suspect it's every manager. I've not come across a manager yet, with the possible one exception, I'll let you guess at that one, who doesn't want more. They always want more. They want the big players and they want to spend huge sums of money. He's done that, not exactly on a shoestring, but in comparison to a lot of others, you know, he's done it really well. But you're right, Wanyama did an amazing job in there for the period he was in there. Dyer was always slightly concerned about, to be fair, because he has got that weakness, he's not quick. And, you know, a few times last season he was really badly caught out. So whether you put him as one of the back three or whether you put him as that sitting midfield, I think he's better at sitting midfield because, you know yourself, you don't get caught out with pace that much there because they're running onto three players. But it was a very settled side and a real grouping, and you knew what that front three would look like as well, and you didn't know how to stop it. I mean, yeah, there's another thing to throw in, Dele Alli. I mean, what he was adding for a long period of time, and that's kind of disappeared as well. So, you know, without calling them a terrible team, they just ain't anywhere near as good as they were before, and it's hard to see how they're going to massively change that.
But investment is the only thing, and we spoke earlier about how they were on the cusp of, like, you know, winning the Premier League, and I think Pochettino wanted that investment to get them over the line, to get them into that next bracket, and they just missed their window, and then all the players who weren't rewarded are now upset. But I definitely think he's gone in a different direction with total footballers, lightweight. I won't say they're flimsy, defensively they're flimsy, but they're obviously Winks and Ndombele are very, very good footballers. But when you play against Spurs and you look up and you see Dembele and Wanyama, I mean, my God,
they're not getting much there.
Like, I mean, in front of the two centre backs, so essentially they were 2 or 3 years younger, and they were maybe in a better state mentally as well. But like, that was unbreakable.
There's a block of 4, and you can see it on the pitch.
You never got at them. But no, Winks and they're lightweight, they're milky for me. You know, they're not. They're just not.
Is it not a bit? Is he not looking a little bit like? Well, who's winning trophies these days? Well, it's Manchester City. Well, they're hell of a lightweight in the middle, but in the fact that you don't get the ball off them, it doesn't really matter. And maybe that's what he's thinking about, trying to go in that. You're right. It is much more total football. But you've got to be really good to be able to do that, you know. And when they had players like Modric in there, I mean, he could do that. You know, there's other sorts of players, but you need to have utter dominance of the play to be able to do that.
You do.
You've not got utter dominance of the play.
You have to have 70% of the ball like Man City do. Spurs probably dominate the ball, but not as much as what Man City do. So.
And you can't necessarily have players that are coasting their reputation either. And that strikes me as what Dele Alli has been doing for the past, the best part of a year now at this stage, Pat.
Yeah. Well, one of the Dele Alli things was. He was good at a number of things, but we all kind of know what he's best at. And it's that arriving in the kind of inside left position, back post, sort of, you know, good arrivals and getting some decent goals in those sort of areas. I think people know that now. So, right, okay, we'll block off that area. You know, I mean, I watched him score time and time again against Chelsea, and it was hilarious because he just kept on doing the same thing, running onto Azpilicueta, who was taller than. And he was doing that a lot, but teams have thought, right, okay, that's what he does now. That's where he wants to operate now. If he's playing, we'll kill that space. And he's not seeming to adapt that well. But the stuff that I've been reading recently about him, he's got rid of a lot of his stuff that's out with the game. And it may well be that was, if he's get rid of all that sort of stuff, you know, he's doing on the side, it may well be that he was doing far too much. And he's realised it himself now. He has to get his head down. And sometimes it is that second or third season that is harder because you must readapt all the time. Yeah. You cannot keep on doing the same things, especially not in today's Premier League. People aren't stupid.
What's the weight of that then, as regards player and manager? How much of that is down to the player and much of that is down to the manager to try and readapt, reassert what Ali can do and get the best out of him that way?
I think a lot of people have a different idea about it and say it was the manager. I'd say 90% of the time the manager tells you, but you better do it. And it's up to you to go and think about it and consider it and do it. So, yeah, it's both. It's definitely both. But if the manager can sit you down, you know, and give you the stats and then give you some of the videos and say, look at that. Why is that not happening? Why are you doing that now? And then you've got to think, well, wait a minute, there's a reason for that. I've got to adapt on the field and off the field as well. Look, again, he's not a terrible player. He's had a great few seasons. He's kind of come off the boil a little bit. But you cannot stand still in the Premier League. You cannot keep on doing the same things. If you keep on doing the same, I mean creatively, if you keep on doing the same things creatively, people will suss it. You know,
it's true, because I mean, if you're playing against Dele Alli, you know, you're going to say that he has a tendency when the ball's wide to make runs in the back post across the front. As a centre back, when the ball's wide, you're going to be looking for them runs, and you block them off quite easy. Defensive midfield players take up different positions, and you're right, you need to evolve as a player and add different things to your game. The manager's going to come in and say to you, hey, listen, this isn't really working anymore, try this. But I agree, it's 90% it's down to the player to recognise himself that, you know, people are seeing my runs, are picking them up too easy. You know, you look at his squad there tonight. Lo Celso and Moura on the bench. You know, the two new signings. Moura always seems to do well for me, but
where do you fit him in?
He's never regular though, is he? I like him and I see him, but he obviously doesn't trust something about him. I mean, maybe Lo Celso has been injured and whatnot, but again, so your two new signings that you've had, they're not on the side.
Lo Celso's working his way back to fitness, I guess. He had that spell out towards the start of the season, and I think it might just be a case of working him back in. Pat, I want to move on. We'll talk briefly. It's a nice chance for Phil Foden for Manchester City tonight, because he gets a rare starting place. City, of course, will be pretty much home and hosed with a victory tonight against Atalanta. So for the likes of Foden, it's a good opportunity to put a case for themselves forward for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and it's such a shame for him, because every time I watch him, I'm like amazed that, you know, he's come through, and he almost doesn't look like a British player. He looks Spanish. His game awareness is stunning. Goes into the right areas, picks passes. Look, if you've grown up and you're surrounded by David Silva and Kevin De Bruyne, there's a fair chance a couple of things might rub off, but it doesn't always happen. To be fair with him, it's been absolutely brilliant to see. And I don't know the answer to it, you know, because he's not going to get a game every week, because, you know, there are so many fantastic. I mean, Riyad Mahrez was Player of the Year just the other year there, and he can't get a game every week. It's really tough for him. But his attitude seems perfect. That's the other thing. He's not walking about with a bottom lip out. His attitude seems perfect, but he could really do with get a lot more games, because that's the thing. You need them under your belt, because it'll come at some point where you're asked to play 3, 4, 5, 6 in a row. If you've not been used to doing it at that level, it probably affects you. You know, probably you might tire or whatever at the end of those games. I don't know what the answer is. There is no easy answer for him, but he needs to get more minutes on the pitch. Really confident of him tonight. I mean, this is a good one for him tonight against Atalanta. I mean, as you say, they're the weapon boys of the group at the moment. But Pep's not laying off. The recent comments for Pep in the press have been great. You know, they are just behind Liverpool now. You know, they would argue that they could almost get it in their own hands if they can get another couple of points back on Liverpool. But he's just not sitting back. This is miles away from being good enough for Pep. And even let the odd 2-0 win, that's not acceptable. And I think you can see a little drop, just a little bit of a drop. You almost see humanity in there in a couple of the games. He doesn't want to see that. You want to walk out against Manchester City and be beat half the time before you're on the pitch. That was the case up until very recently, and he wants to bring that back.
That centre-half partnership tonight, again, it's a couple of midfielders, Fernandinho and Rodri, but it is against Atalanta. They should be okay tonight, shouldn't they?
Well, you suspect so. I don't see why not. I mean, you will have that. It's just what Damien says there. You've got 70%, 80% possession in the ball, and you don't give them good positions and, you know, good ball and good positions and good. I mean, I'd just love to see the way they're absolutely, completely controlling it. I was quite surprised when they did have those couple of slip-ups early in the season, that people, one or two people, not many, but one or two people saying it's all finished and it's dead and we need to move on now. Absolutely not. It's football. It's damn hard. You know, it's hard. And most of those games anyway, they had a whole host of chances anyway. They could have hammered any game that they have played in this season. They could have won any of the games by a lot. It's just that the balls haven't been getting in quite as easily in one or two of the games, and they've been pretty unlucky. If I was them, I was going to say I'd have no worries. I'd have one worry, and that's Liverpool. That's all it is. There's only one worry left for them. Champions League, still think they've got a great chance of getting all the way in that as well.
Speaking of worries, Pat, I want to touch on Arsenal last night. A 1-0 defeat away to Sheffield United. They never really looked like they were going to get anything from that game last night. A couple of decisions, to be fair, didn't go their way. Bukayo Saka got a booking for, when it looked like he was fouled. There were other incidents as well that could well have gone their way, but Sheffield United well worth the victory. And the talk now about Arsenal is that maybe the clock is starting to tick on Unai Emery. You look at their record though this season, like it's that defeat to Sheffield United, a 3-1 defeat away to Liverpool, which is not the worst place to be dropping points. It seems a tad to me unfair that he would be cast in such a light at this early stage of the season.
I think that's pretty harsh on him this early. However, look at the games they've won. Right, look, they're brilliant in the cups. Right, Europa League, cups, fantastic. 4s and 5s and everything, no problem at all. Have a look at the games they've won this season. I was at the game against Newcastle. They were quite rubbish, actually, and they sneaked a 1-0 win against the Newcastle, who were absolutely down and out at that point. The other games they won, 3-2 against Aston Villa. Villa are a decent team, but it's not hammering. 1-0 against Bournemouth. Another one was 2-1 against Burnley. Right, fair enough, they're all hard teams to beat, but this is Arsenal. You've actually got those 4 games you've won this season in the Premier League, you've won them all by a goal. So questions understandably have been asked just now. And you look at that forward line, forward line looks unbelievable. But they're not scoring as many goals as I would expect them to score, certainly in the Premier League so far. But look at the position, they're 5th at the moment. 5th
could have been 3rd if they won last night.
Yeah, exactly. So there's no big panic stations for them. And the Sheffield United thing, the point about them, they're just brilliantly organised. You love them. They work great. They're still on that buzz you get when you just get up to the Premier League, aren't they? And the fact that they're one of the teams that are playing with the 3 at the back at the moment. And remember, we often talk about this. Remember Chelsea were the team that got it right when they did it under Antonio Conte. And it confused the life out of everybody. And they won the league on the back of it. Then next season, most teams kind of sussed it and they had to adapt. But the way he's doing it just now, and it's almost a 3-5-2 most of the time, but everybody that's playing within it is really, really well suited to it. And they do these odd things of breaking from the back. So, you really like, I don't know how long it's going to last for Sheffield United. I don't think they'll be in the top half at the end of the season. But it's not an easy place to go. It's a damn hard place to go, especially, the tails are up this early in the season. I think Chris Wilder's got less to worry about than Unai Emery, because with Emery, the expectation should be, considering what's happening with Spurs, considering the changes that happened in Chelsea, you should be top 4. If you're Arsenal, with the money you've got, the strikers you've got, you should be top 4. No questions asked.
It's the linking. It's finding a way to bring the strikers in, because their midfield doesn't seem as connected with the front 3 or front 2 or whatever way they want to amalgamate it. Like it doesn't seem as connected as it has been in previous years, and that seems to be a major issue for
Arsenal fans are just so starved of success, and they're watching the other teams getting further and further away from them, that nights like last night when they lose 1-0, they're just magnified and made to seem worse than what they are. Like, I think a lot of Arsenal fans have issues with his team selection as well. Ozil not being involved, Tierney on the bench again. Arsenal fans are just in a really, really difficult place at the minute, and they can't adjust to the fact that they're probably similar to Man United fans, that they're not, top dogs anymore. The other teams are ahead of them.
Just go get Harry Kane.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a simple solution to everything, David.
Listen, if the world was that black and white.
Pat, thanks so much for your time this evening. We'll let you go and enjoy the games.
A pleasure, and I better get on my way towards Chelsea. I'm going down to cover the Chelsea game, so it'll be crack of dawn tomorrow. I've got a hard life. All
right. Enjoy that, Pat. We'll let you get some sleep in the meantime. Pat and Nevin there. We'll be back after these.
Off the Ball on News Talk. Moncrief.
It must be said, the one thing that's got the most amount of reaction is the testicuzzi, that being a jacuzzi for your testicles. We played the advert for it at the start of the show today. Now, a lot of people have said, what's the point? You could just sit in the bath with a big straw. Somebody else suggests put them in a teapot and get someone to blow into the spout. Time for movies and booze.
Moncrief.
With the all-new Dacia Duster.
Weekdays from 2 p.m. on News Talk.
So you've got my watch, my hat, my coat, and my favourite rugby shirt. Let's call it even.
But sir, it's free.
What?
Your PRSI contribution entitles you to a free eye test at Specsavers and glasses from our €69 range.
I'd better put my clothes back on.
Last month, the Barretts saved €345 at Lidl. Their shop last week included our new plant-to-plate vegan burgers for just $2.99. In fact, we've got loads of new vegan products. And no, it's not a fad. Start your big save at Lidl.ie. Lidl, more for you. The Barrett shop between September 10th and October 14th and received a gratuity for participation.
Download the Go Loud app now or add us on your smart speaker. Go Loud. Podcasts, radio and music to your ears.
What would you expect from the new Volkswagen Passat? An elegant dynamic exterior and spacious interior? Advanced driver assistance systems for easier, safer driving? A plug-in hybrid option for a cleaner, greener drive? Expect all that and more, so you can be more.